Hello. I hope you're having a good day today. And we're gonna learn about Uke Mochi, the Japanese goddess of food. I like to call her the ramen god, as Japan has blessed the world with ramen noodles. And we have her to thank for that. So, Uke Mochi, the daughter of Shinto deities Izanagi and Izanami, is a goddess of food in the Shinto religion of Japan. In some differing interpretations, Uke Mochi is referred to as both male and female. When shown in other forms, Uke Mochi takes the shape of a fox. So she can turn into a fox. That's awesome. Ogatsu Haim is married to Hayamoto, who is the son of Toshigami through his wife Amachigamazu Haim. I have no idea how to pronounce that. In the Kojiki, making Hayamoto her great-grandnephew through her brother Oyamatsumi. In some legends, Uke Mochi is also married to Inari, and in others, she is Inari. According to the Kojiki, after Susanoo was banished from heaven, he asked Ogatsu Haim to give him food, and she did so by producing various food items from her nose, mouth, and rectum. Interesting, and kinda gross. So she can produce food from her butt. Interesting. And her nose. So I guess she blows food out of her nose as well. What an interesting being. Thinking that she had poisoned the food by doing this, Susanoo killed her. After she died, silkworms grew from her head, rice seeds grew from her eyes, millet grew from her ear, red beans grew from her nose. Wheat grew from her genitals. Ugh. So wheat grew from her genitals. That's weird. And interesting. Wheat for bread. Oh my goodness. And soybeans grew from her rectum. So that's where soybeans come from. It's from Uke Mochi's butt. After her death, Kamusubi took seeds from her body and planted them in the ground. Another version of this myth features Ogatsu Haim by her more common name, Uke Mochi, and in this version, the moon god Tsukayomi visits her on behalf of her sister wife. The sun goddess Amaterasu, Uke Mochi, sought to entertain him and prepared a feast. First, she faced the land and opened her mouth, and boiled rice came out. She faced the ocean and spit out fish and seaweed. Then she faced the forest, and bountiful game spewed out of her mouth. So that's how you got the animals in the world, is she spit them out. She faced and opened her mouth, and boiled rice came out. Next, she faced the ocean. So that's how we got boiled rice. It's basically her saliva. So this lady right here, she spits out boiled rice. Next, she faced the ocean and spit out fish. Just gonna imagine her spitting out fish into that pond right there. Just right there. She's gonna spit some fish in there. And seaweed. Then she faced the forest, and bountiful game spewed out of her mouth. She prepared the food and served it to yummy. But he was so disgusted by how she had produced the food and and thought she had disrespected him and made the food impure. So, by seeing how the food was produced, by spitting it out, he was so disgusted that he killed her. And I mean, that's very realistic to everyday life. I mean, most people don't like seeing how most food's made. Most people don't like seeing how beef's made. Usually it's some guy in a factory somewhere hits a cow over the head with a hammer till he kills it, and then they cut it up into a million little... Most people don't like seeing that. They just like seeing the chicken nugget you get. You know, the beautiful little chicken nugget. But they don't like seeing the brutality of how the food's made. And that's just kind of how the world is. You know, for carnivores. You gotta kill to make the food. And usually it's pretty disgusting how the food's made. Especially, and then nowadays we got processed food that has a million chemical, nasty ingredients. Just a hodgepodge of chemical goop in a lot of processed food today. Most people don't like seeing that. They just like seeing the final product. So, had she produced it without Tsukiyomi seeing, he might have actually just enjoyed the food. But since he saw the nastiness of how the food was produced, he killed her. And that's very relatable to food, how food is made today. A lot of people just don't like to think about how nasty the food we eat is today, especially the processed food, or about how animals are killed to make the meats we all consume. But anyway, he was so disgusted by how she produced the food and thought she had disrespected him and made the food impure. Feeling offended by the slight from the lesser deity, he killed her and returned to heaven. Her dead body produced both food and animals. Cows and horses came from her head. Silkworms came from her eyebrows. Millet came from her forehead, and rice plant sprouted from her stomach. Just different. They removed the rectum and the private area part. That's the only difference. While different sources mention similar items that came from Uke Mochi's body, from which part of her body these items came from is less agreed upon. It is believed that this version of Uke Mochi's death explained why the sun and the moon are not seen together, as the sun goddess Amaterasu, who heard of Uke Mochi's passing, never wanted to meet her killer. So, either the sun didn't want to meet the moon, or the moon didn't want to meet the sun, because the other was the killer. The moon god... the moon god Tsukiyomi is the one who killed her. So, the moon god killed her because he was so disgusted by seeing how she made the food that he killed her. And that's why the sun god Amaterasu does not want... that's why you don't see the sun and the moon in the sky, essentially. Because the sun god is disgusted by the act of the moon god that killed the food god, Uke Mochi. Or that Tsukiyomi hid during the day out of fear of Amarotsu's wrath. So it's also the moon might be just hiding away from the sun because of how the moon god killed the food god Uke Mochi. And the sun god might kill the moon. In addition, in a legend passed down by Iwami district in Shimane Prefecture, her daughter and deity Otu Gosa Haim rode on a red goose and descended to transmit the seeds of the crops to the ground. Otogosuheim was able to get food from anywhere on her body. Uke Mochi, Inari, and Toyoki are all said to be connected to each other. Alright. Just very interesting. So she produces food by spitting. And that's how your food's made. Your wheat is the growth from her private area. Fast food goddess of takeout meals and TV dinners. I also call her the ramen god. And that's kind of fitting that the wheat's down there. You see the wheat's down there? Yeah, it's fitting. Makes sense. The wife of Inari, she avoided cooking like the plague. One day, Tsukiyomi, the moon god, invited himself over for a dinner. When he popped his head around the kitchen door, he was disturbed to find his hostess vomiting into the dish. She had planned to serve this up on a bed of rice with a delicate garnish of freshly pooped poop and a bottle of house wine. And that was just the first course. Disgusted and insulted, the moon god Tsukiyomi killed her and stormed out. However, the corpse of Uke Mochi continued to propagate food like some uncontrollable grow bag. Interesting. So her body essentially bloated and just kept producing more food. Kind of like after someone dies and the body bloats. Her body just bloated into a bunch of food. And that's why we have the food of the earth. From every orifice poured the ingredients for daily bread, rice, pudding, soya, bean feasts, and much more, even including the odd cow and other edible animals. Ever her fame grows, and fast food chains should offer everlasting prayers. Her husband, Inari, the god of rice, still holds a rice distribution concession. He feels, in the circumstances, it all turned out for the best, as he does not have to face his wife's cooking anymore. I mean, yeah, she's not producing it like by pooing it out or blowing it out of her nose anymore, but it still came from her corpse. So all the soybeans and all the rice in the world is all produced by her corpse. So it's all coming from the same place, essentially. It's just she's not here anymore to produce it. Still holds a rice disease. Yep. So that's that part. Uke Mochi no Kami. In Shinto mythology, the goddess of food, she is also sometimes identified as Wakakonamo, young woman with food, and is associated with Toyoku, Alkami, the god of food, clothing, housing, who is enshrined in the outer shrine of the grand shrine of Ise. According to the legend recounted in the Nihon Shoki Chronicles of Japan, the moon god, she made him food by pooing it out. He was so disgusted, he killed her. Yeah, I can't make an AI image of her pooing out food. That wouldn't be allowed on YouTube, or blowing it out of her nose, but that's what she did. It was another brother, the storm god Susanoo, who was sent on the mission. Oh, so Uke Mochi, is it Uke Mochi? So hold on. Was dispatched on Earth by his sister, the sun goddess Amaterasu, to visit Uke Mochi no Kami. The Kojiki records of ancient matters. It was another brother, the storm god Susanoo, who was sent on the mission. The food goddess welcomed him by facing the land and disgorging from her mouth boiled rice, turning towards the sea and spewing out all kinds of fishes, and turning towards the land and disgorging game. She presented these foods to him at a banquet, but he was displeased at being offered the goddess's vomit, and drew his sword and killed her. So it wasn't the moon god, it was the storm god. The moon god sent the storm god Susanoo to kill Uke Mochi. And when he saw her vomit, she vomited the fishes. Yeah, she vomited the fishes in the ocean, and turning toward the land and disgorging game. So she also vomited the deer and all the native wildlife of Japan into the forest. And that's when Susanoo, the storm god, who was sent on the mission to kill her, had his suspicions confirmed that she was just a gross lady who threw food up and killed her. When he returned to heaven and informed his sister of what he had done, she became angry and said, "Henceforth, I shall not meet you face to face," which is said to explain why the sun and moon are never seen together. Interesting. Another messenger sent to the food goddess by Amaterasu found various stuffs produced from her dead body. From her head came the ox and the horse. From her forehead, the millet. From her eyebrows, silkworms. From her eyes, panic grass. A cereal. From her belly, a rice. And from her genitals, wheat and beans. It's so gross to imagine wheat and beans coming from her private area. Wheat grew from her private. Oh my goodness. Thereby beginning the art of sericulture, the production of raw silk. So that's how raw silk's made. Just a mixture of all the things her dead body produced. And yeah, that's Uke Mochi. Uke Mochi. Goddess who possesses food, goddess who protects, and goddess who preserves food. Japanese goddess of food written about in the Nihon Shoki and the Kojiki, and is worshipped in the outer portion of the Amaterasu shrine and the Ise shrine. As food is crucial for survival, she is also considered a goddess who sustains life and provides abundance in general, and her domain often includes clothing and shelter. She is also called Ugetsu Hayim, or Toyuki Akami, the deity of food, clothing, and housing, and she is frequently correlated with or seen as the same goddess as Inari Okami. In other legends, she is the wife of Inari rather than being Inari himself or herself. Tsukiyami visited the mortal realm to welcome him. Uke Mochi held a feast for him. However, unlike a regular feast, her preparations were unusual, as all the food were created and expelled from her body. In a fit of disgust at the display, Tsukiyami killed Uke Mochi with his sword. Different foods were created by her taking them from different parts of her body, as dependent on what she was facing. From her mouth she vomited fish while facing the ocean, hunting animals and game, while facing the forest, and rice while facing a paddy field. Additional foods were pulled from her nose and rectum, but what foods these were is not generally agreed upon. Even dead, her corpse continued to produce food. Her head produced horses and oxen. From her eyebrows came silkworms. From her forehead, millet. From her belly came rice, and from her genitals wheat and beans. Repercussions. Because Tsukiyami killed the goddess, it angered Amaterasu, and she decided to label him an evil spirit and separate from him. Thus, the moon and the sun are not seen together. In some legends, after her death, Tsukiyami discovered that the food and creatures Uke Mochi produced could not be destroyed. And so he instead gives them a new life and purpose. The responsibility and domain over these were given. So, him killing her kind of backfired on him. Backfired on him big time, because almost everything, all the food of the world, came from her. And it cannot be destroyed. And now she is more plentiful and more bountiful than ever. Whereas when she was alive, it was just her producing the food. But now she's essentially everywhere, continually producing more and more. Within the pantheon of Japanese deities, Uke Mochi holds a distinct place. She's depicted as a powerful goddess who embodies the essence of abundance and nourishment, while her origins may differ in versions of the myth. One consistent thread of her affiliation with the celestial realm and her connection to the natural world. According to some accounts, Uke Mochi is believed to be the result of Amaterasu, the revered goddess of the sun, creating her from her very own body. This ancestral tie serves to elevate Uke Mochi's status and highlights her close relationship with the divine realm. Uke Mochi's role as the goddess of food. She signifies, in Japanese mythology, primarily revolving around her role as the goddess of food. In ancient Japan, food held immense cultural and spiritual importance. Well, yeah, if you don't eat it, you die. And thus, Uke Mochi's domain became integral to the daily lives. Especially back then, food was a lot more important because food's everywhere now. Even the homeless people get a lot of food. Back then, if you were homeless, you can eat and you just starve to death. Famine. But famine's a lot less widespread now. It still happens in the world, but it's a lot less common than it once was. As the goddess of food, Uke Mochi was responsible for providing sustenance and nourishment to both deities and humans alike. She symbolized the bountiful harvest and abundance of marine life and the provisions of essential nutrients. With her ability to produce vast quantities of delicious food were revered and sought after, and her divine culinary offerings were seen as a gift from the heavens. And it talks again of how she met the moon god, and how the moon god killed her. She presented rice, fish, and meat, but Tsukiyami became so disgusted, he killed her. This mythological encounter. The symbolism. Uke Mochi, the Japanese goddess of food, holds deep symbolism and signifies within Japanese mythology and culture her divine presence as a provider, and her gifts to humanity highlight her unique role and impact. Uke Mochi, the divine provider. As a deity associated with food, Uke Mochi represents the sustenance and nourishment that the natural world provides. She embodies the idea of abundance and fertility, symbolizing the interconnectedness between humans and a bountiful earth. It's such a shame, though, that it came at the cost of her very life. Her very role as a divine provider showcases the importance of food in sustaining and fostering prosperity. Uke Mochi's presence emphasizes the gratitude for the gifts of nature and recognition of the sacredness of the food we consume. And that's true. A lot of people need to appreciate the food that they have. They need to appreciate the food that they have. Because some people today, they only appreciate it if it's like an expensive crab dish, if it's an expensive steak, if it's an expensive, when all that's meaningless. Just the very nourishment is something that we should all be grateful of. The very nourishment that the food provides. Even if it is just some regular beans or just some regular rice that has no flavoring, appreciate it. Because there have been many people who have starved to death. And just to engorge yourself on that nourishment is a blessing that a lot more people should be appreciative of. So, that's one of the things she represents. Just be appreciative of even the most mundane of food. Even if it doesn't have flavoring. Even if it doesn't have all the tastiness. Even if it doesn't have the most expensive ingredients. Be grateful and cherish every bite. Because every bite could be your last. Uke Mochi's gifts also symbolize the sacredness of food. Preparation, emphasizing the artistry. So yeah, she also represents the artistry of food. So yeah, she also represents the flavoring and the culinary arts and the chefs of the world making a delicious ramen noodle right there. Maybe if she had presented that ramen noodle to the moon god, he wouldn't have killed her. But then again, she probably would have just pooped it out into the bowl. So, yeah, he probably would have killed her still. In conclusion, Uke Mochi symbolizes the divine provider, and her gifts to humanity hold immense cultural and spiritual significance in Japanese mythology. Her role amplifies the importance and recognition of the connectedness between humans and the natural world, honoring the gifts of food and fostering a sense of gratitude for the sustenance even the simplest foods provide, such as rice and noodles. Uke Mochi in Shinto tradition and practices. Uke Mochi's significance in the Japanese culture are deeply rooted in Shinto traditions and practices. Throughout Japan, numerous shrines are dedicated to Uke Mochi. Offerings such as rice, fruits, and sake are presented as a display of gratitude and devotion to Uke Mochi. Among the most renowned shrines where Uke Mochi is venerated, the Grand Shrine of Aizi in Mi Prefecture. I kind of want to look that up. Oh, hold on. There's some other pictures of Uke Mochi. And one of the ones that inspired me to make this video, I don't know if I'll find it, was this one's cool. That's a more traditional one. But it was of her, this one right here. She is the god of ramen noodles. But I want to see that shrine. Aizi in the May Uke Mochi. Let's see the shrine. Uke Mochi shrine. See what that looks like. I guess that's it. I guess it's just a building. It's just a building. Interesting looking building. But that's her shrine, I guess. And more pictures of her. The events not only signify and showcase the cultural significance of Uke Mochi, also serves as an opportunity for communities to come together. Break bread with the enemy, as they say. Food brings many people together. If you have an enemy, share a nice meal with them. It'll bring you together. In her case, though, it got her killed. One note. So don't make a bad meal. Essentially, I guess that's another lesson to be learned. You know, don't make a bad meal with your enemy. He might kill you. He or she might kill you if you make him a bad meal. Make a good meal for your enemy, and don't show them how you make it. That's another lesson to be learned. Don't show people how you make your food, because they might not appreciate it. This vibrant event features lively processions, traditional performances, and elaborate ceremonies dedicated to honoring the goddess. Participants take part in rituals and prayers for Mochi's abundance and blessings. Food offerings and festivities. The cultural impact, to appreciate food in Japanese cuisine. And yeah, that is Uke Mochi. For the most part, everything about her. Let's look at some more pictures of her. So here, she's got a ladle, and she's producing some foods down there. Just wonderful looking. That one too, a little ladle. Granted, the way she actually did produce it was not nearly as beautiful. Be a lot more accurate if she was blowing it out of her nose, or pooing it out. But anyway, this is the YouTube censored version of the Uke Mochi making food. And there she is, in all her glory, producing food. I like this one. This one's cool, because you got that down there. That little pit down there. That's kind of cool. That little pit's cool. This is probably the most lore accurate image. You know, she got the fishes there. And there she is. And we've reached the end of the line in my images. Just a wonderful goddess, Uke Mochi. I've been calling her the wrong thing for half the minute. Uke Mochi, I think it is. Uke Mochi. And she makes you really appreciate the bounty in the food, even the simple. I like the idea of the simple foods. The rice, the beans, and just appreciating the little nourishments, and not necessarily the fancy stuff. But she does also represent the fancy stuff, such as all the spices and adding ingredients to make it more bountiful and more tasteful. Not more bountiful, but more tasteful and more tasty. There she is. There's a big vat. Be more accurate if she was pooing into that. And then there she is, eating some noodles. There she is, standing in some wheat. That's a bit accurate, because the wheat came from her genitals, so it's down there. That makes sense. Then this one, something's going on in her belly right there. I don't know what's going on with the belly. Then this one, she's just holding a bowl of ramen. There she is, looking very, very nice. As you can see, very, very nice. Very nice food right there. Some more very nice food. And then let's skip these ones. I don't really like these ones. I don't like the anime style photos. I prefer the more traditional. I like this. This is a lot cooler. And then Uke Mochi. This photo, right? These are all cool. Oh, I like this one. This one's awesome. Just look at her eyes right there. She got the is it Shioki art style eyes? Or Shioki? I don't remember. I'd have to look. What is it? It's the Ukiyo-e right there. Ukiyo-e art style. Eyeballs. Very cool. Very cool. This one's probably the most accurate of the images actually etching in my mind. Because you see it's coming from her hair. She's got like noodles coming from her hair. That's why I like that one. This image is also cool just because I like her well-endowed traits right there. And it's traditional, which is awesome. But yeah, look at that. That's so cool. It's like she's producing noodles from her hair. This is probably the most accurate representation. She produces the noodles from her hair. And then it should also show her like spitting out fish. And then there's that one. Then there's this one. I love this one too. She's like, yes, behold, the food, the bounty I provide. Behold, the food. It is tasty. And that is Uke Mochi. I don't know which video I'm gonna end on. Which one's better? This one. And Uke Mochi says, have a bountiful breakfast, lunch, dinner, and enjoy your nourishment. All the nourishments you can. And appreciate every little crumb that nature provides. And also like and subscribe and favorite and do all those things and comment below your thoughts on Uke Mochi, the food god. And have a wonderful, bountiful next meal. Have a wonderful, bountiful next meal. Uke Mochi blesses your food. Have a good day.